Hello, I'm Kat and this is 10 minutes long. And in the last video, well, the last two videos, you've seen me kind of like do this project on the window. So this is like the continuation of it, essentially. So in the first video, you saw me cleaning and preparing the window to be painted. In the second video, you saw me painting the window and also putting masking tape around the outside of the window ready for sealing. And that's where this video starts, is on the actual sealing. So you can see there that I am using a mastic gun, which is sometimes known as a skeleton gun, and I prefer the term skeleton gun for obvious reasons because it's just awesome. And you can see there that the sealant that I've used is just a plain white sealant. And it's actually a bathroom sealant because I also wanted to do the seal around the bath, so I was like, hey, if it can deal with bathrooms, it can probably deal with windows, and I didn't want to buy like a whole separate sealant for it, so if it goes wrong, I've only got myself to blame. So you can see there that I've put the sealant around the outside of the window, and the masking tape should stop it from becoming like too thick or chunky a line. Now here you can see I'm using like a black tool to try and smooth it out. So this was actually a grout removal tool that I bought for the bath, and it's a Unibond grout removal tool. It's only like a couple of quid in B&Q, but honestly it was like the worst thing I've ever bought. Like even though it's only 3 quid, it's just totally useless. It just doesn't work at all. So in the end I actually did use my finger, although the video is going so fast that you didn't see that. And there you can see me taking off the masking tape, and you can't see it that well in the video because the bright light coming in through the window, but the seal was actually pretty good. But yeah, you can see there me still like trying to use this tool, thinking, oh, the masking tape's in the way. Honestly, this tool is rubbish. Like, don't buy it. It's just not worth it at all. It didn't help to remove the grout. It doesn't help to seal anything up. It was totally useless. But you can see there that like I've had to like go in and put some extra bits on because it just pulled bits off. But yeah, you can see there that in the end I just used my finger because it was just like, yeah, the tool wasn't working, so finger it was, and that worked an absolute treat. Just don't press too hard if you use your finger so you don't end up smoothing it out too much. So that was actually one of the smoothest parts of the process. So in this next one, you can see that I'm just filling in the holes that were left there by the previous blind. Probably should have done that before I painted, but live and learn, right? So yeah, just try to use a little bit of filler to fill them in, but the holes should have been done sooner. Next, it was time to fit the blind. So I kind of just was here putting all the bits in one place and reading the instructions. Reading instructions, heavily recommended. I had this idea that it would be a great idea to tape the ends in place because I needed the ends on it to be able to draw around it so I knew where to like drill holes. So far so good. Like I taped the ends on so that they would stay. But then I also had this follow-up idea, which was a bit harebrained, which was like, oh well, to get it level, I need a level, and I hadn't long bought a level for a different project, so I was kind of like keen to use it again. And then I thought, how do I hold the blind, the ends, and the level in place so that I can draw where the screws should go? So I thought I'll tape it on, but as you can see, like it was just totally useless. There was absolutely no point at all to the level. So I just took it off. And then one of the ends came off, so then I had to tape that back on, and I was just using masking tape because obviously it's easy enough to put on and off without any issues. And then I just went with that in the end, the masking tape. And then I used this like tiny pencil to try and get in there and draw where the holes would go, but it wasn't very successful at all, and it left just a really faint line, so then I had to put the brackets on again. Once I'd done that though, I decided it was time to drill. Now this drill I had literally bought like the day before and hadn't charged it. Not only that, but like this is my first time ever using a drill, so probably should have tried it out on something else first. So I was a little bit nervous drilling the holes, and like in my head I'm kind of like, what if they're in the wrong place, because the holes for the brackets are really thin. And yeah, it just wasn't a very easy process. Not only that, but like I decided to drill a tiny hole and then thought that I'd be able to screw into the wood directly from there, that I wouldn't need a really deep hole. So that was also a massive mistake in this process. So here you can see that I decided then to just try and screw directly into the wood. I tried to use the electric screwdriver, didn't work very well, so I went on to manual, and you can see I'm just struggling with it massively. Still struggling with the manual screwdriver. And I was struggling with this for ages, just on this one bracket, just on this side, just like, don't screw directly into wood, drill first, that's the lesson. This is the fun bit where I realised that the slits on the back, the screw just like slots in, so you're supposed to like screw the screws in and then first, and then just slot the bracket onto it afterwards. So that was a big mistake as well, because the whole time I had just been there trying to like screw the bracket in and being like, how are you supposed to screw these in with the bracket on as well? Like it gives you no room for maneuver. So then at that point I decided that obviously it wasn't screwing directly into the wood and the holes needed to be a bit deeper, but the drill was like really fighting me. So again, I didn't drill it deep enough. They're literally just tiny holes. But then I was like, hey, now I can just put screws in without the bracket. I can just put a screw in and then slide the bracket on, because I discovered that was the function of the blind, which wasn't very clear in the instructions. So you can see there I'm trying to drill in, but also trying not to, like, you can see the light going on and off, so I'm trying not to strip the head so it just isn't going in as far as I want it to, and it's been really difficult. And I think in the end I actually did just strip the head, but you can see me there as well with the bracket, like slipping the bracket on and off, trying to see if it'll just hold in place with the screws in as far as I've put them. Back to the manual screwdriver, back to the electric screwdriver, seeing if the bracket's in place, realising that the bracket's probably a bit the screws are a little bit too close together. Finally get the bracket on, and then there's still a huge gap between the bracket and the roof, and then I'm trying to get the screws in. Like at this point it's like by hook or by crook. I've been doing this for a really long time, but you can see there's still a gap there, and I'm still trying everything I possibly can to get those last screws in, and struggling. I think realistically this was kind of the point where I gave up. This is why this isn't speeded up, this is just me stood there just looking at it, just for ages. Like in my head I'm just like, this isn't working, what am I doing, how am I gonna fix this, how have I broken this? Like it was just like this pure existential moment of dread going on at this stage. Finally decided to have one sort of final crack at it. At this stage I realised that the screws would need to come out and I'd need to do it properly, but I had like kind of hammered the bracket in there, and at this stage one of the screws had stripped as well, so the bracket was in there, it wasn't coming off, one of the screws was stripped. I was just like starting to really like lose my mind, just thinking I need to get this off, and if I don't get this off then I can't adjust the screws and then it's just going to be broken forever. So this next section is basically me just trying to undo what I've done up until this point, and you can see that it is just not budging. Eventually I get it off, and then it's time to get out the screws that have been stripped, which again is not an easy thing to do, but I went with the manual screwdriver because it meant that I could just put all of my weight behind it. The electric screwdriver was a new thing. Like I said, used it maybe once or twice at this stage, max, the actual screwdriver part of it, so I wasn't really confident with it, whereas like I've used a manual screwdriver a million times, so I just kept going back to that because it was kind of like, well, I know how this works and I know that I can make it do what I want it to do. So there we go, that's me taking down the bracket. And then yeah, this is kind of where I tried. and the point at which I realised it was done, that I just wasn't gonna get it done today.